Hello and welcome to Motherland Kitchen. Today I'll be showing you how to cook vegan egusi soup. Egusi is actually the name in Africa for pumpkin seed stew. So you see here, I have a cup of pumpkin seeds. These pumpkin seeds come from Africa, but the pumpkin seeds that you find commonly here in America are the dark green pumpkin seeds. It doesn't matter. Just buy whatever pumpkin seeds you can find in your local grocery stores, from Amazon. Just get whatever you can get. They are all packed full of nutrients. Pumpkin seeds are also a superfood. They have so many nutrients, and actually, I tell my customers that we all should be eating pumpkin seeds of some sorts every single day. That's how good pumpkin seeds are for you. They're packed full of nutrients, and we can only do good to ourselves if we add nutritious foods to our diets. So, pumpkin seed stew is a seller in our restaurant, and I thought I shouldn't leave out the vegans. Of course, we love our vegans and we try to make sure that we're inclusive. So I came up with the version of the pumpkin seed stew that has no animal product. Of course, I'm going to show you how to make pumpkin seed with the meat. For those who are meat eaters, we'll have a version of this show with meat and crayfish and everything else that we put in pumpkin seeds stew back home. But today, let's focus on the vegan version of pumpkin seed, the egusi stew. Like we said, food is about herbs. So we're going to start by preparing the herbs and spices that we'll use to bring up the flavor in our pumpkin seed stew. In Africa, we use palm oil. Palm oil is also very nutritious. By the color, you know that it has lots of antioxidants. So we use palm oil, but some people don't like palm oil. So for the vegan version, I try to keep it with vegetable oil that everybody eats. But for the meat version, I do it the traditional way. I use palm oil. But if you want to make yours with palm oil, feel free to do that. Replace the vegetable oil that I'm going to use here with palm oil. So you can use palm oil to make your egusi stew, or you can use vegetable oil, especially for the vegan version. You can use either palm oil or vegetable oil. So here today, I'm going to be using vegetable oil to make my vegan egusi stew. Here I have some garlic, I have some ginger, and I'm going to use a medium onion. And I'm also going to use my green herbs. Of course, you know, at Motherland, we believe in herbs. Herbs give flavor to our foods. So I'm going to use some herbs as well. As for my ginger, I'm not going to bother peeling it. You don't have to. Just remove the ends of the ginger and wash it, and you're good to go. The peelings are as good as the ginger itself. So this is my ginger. This is my garlic and my onions. So wash these and I blend. I'm going to make a nice puree, so grind it really well and put it in the oil. Now I have my smooth blend that I'm going to pour in the hot oil. The next thing I'm going to do is blend my green herbs, wash them, and add to the onions, leeks, and ginger that are cooking. Food is about herbs, as I say all the time. That's what gives flavor and good taste to your food. So use as much herbs as possible in your food. And when you use that much of herbs, you minimize the amount of salt that you put in your food, which makes it very healthy. So once the food is flavorful, you don't need that much salt. You don't need too much additives to give it good taste. The taste of food comes from herbs. The flavor comes from herbs. So use as many herbs as you can. I'm a big believer of leeks. So everything I cook, I find a way of adding leeks to it by all means. Leeks gives good flavor to food. Do another puree of the green herbs. And like I always say, a pinch of salt. And you can add some complete seasoning as well. And to add a little sweetness to our stew, we're going to add some tomatoes. My tomatoes. As usual, open them, deseed, and wash and blend. So this is our deseeded tomatoes. Wash them well, deseed, remove all the seeds, and then blend them. So we'll let the herbs cook until the water kind of reduces, because that's how we get the flavor up. So we'll cook the herbs a little bit, maybe for like 25 minutes or so. Now, in the meantime, we will prep the greens that we're going to add to our vegan pumpkin seed stew. I'll switch blenders here for a bit and use a blender that will give me, this other blender is very powerful, so it gives me the puree, but this one will give me a rough blend of my vegetables because I don't want my vegetables too soft, so I'm going to use this blender because it gives me a rough blend, exactly what I want, so that I can see the greens inside the pumpkin seeds too. Now, somebody who might be wondering why I have to, oh, I forgot these ones. So I'm going to use both collards and kale, but in the restaurant, we actually use collards and spinach. I just wanted to show you that you can actually use this for those who probably don't do spinach because of health reasons. You can replace it with kale, or you can do just the collards if you want. Leave the kale out. If you want to add another vegetable, you can add turnip greens, you can add kale, you can add whatever greens you want. So we do, at the restaurant, we do collards and spinach. So it's called spinach, collard spinach, pumpkin seed stew. And like we know, our collards always have some sand or some earth in it, so we make sure we wash it well before we blend. And again, the question is, why blend? I can just chop them up and put them in the egusi as they are. For me, food is what you see. So when you put a plate of food in front of somebody, the first thing they do, they look at it, and the eye kind of says, oh yeah, it looks good. The next thing is the nose would smell all the flavors, and you start salivating. So your senses play on the food based on how you present the food. Exactly the same thing if you do that at home. You make it look good. Your kids, when they look at the food, they'll be like, oh my God, it looks so good. And then when they smell it, it smells so good. They'll want to eat the food, because every mother's wish is to make sure that their family eats well. So presentation also matters. That's why I try to make the food not only tasty, but also look good. If I took the collard greens and just chop them up and put in the pot, they'll look totally different from if I give a rough blend to the collard greens before I steam them and put them in my pumpkin seed stew. So that's why I don't do just chopping of the greens, because no matter how I chop them, they don't look right to me. So I blend them roughly and then parboil and add to my egusi. So I'll show you what I do. So these are my collard greens. This is just one little bunch. They're not really that dirty. I checked it. There's no earth in it. There's no sand. I just wash it, rinse it off, and put it in the blender. So what we're going to do here is a rough blend. So we're not going to do it's not going to be a puree, it's just going to be a rough blend so that it looks good inside the egusi when we make it. I did not. It's not blending well. What's going on? All right. Okay, you can actually pick it up and look at it. If you don't like the how blended it is, you do another round and just get it as fine as you want. So I'm going to do another round of blending. Now I have the blend the way I want it to be. I would sieve it and show you, and you see the difference. Where the hell did I keep my sieve? So this is my collard greens as opposed to this. And if I even chopped it, it will not be as fine as this. So not only this is faster, it makes it as fine as you want, and you don't use a lot of energy chopping your greens, to your collard greens, to make them very small. So the blender actually helps to make your greens as fine as you want them to be. So this looks very fine, and then when we parboil it and add it into egusi, it kind of, melts down and looks good inside the egusi. So in another pot, we put water, and again, a pinch of salt, and some baking soda. Why do I use the baking soda? Collard greens have a little bit of a bitter taste. The baking soda would not only blanch our collard greens, it also takes away the bitterness from the collard greens. Remember, our goal is to make sure our kids can eat what we cook, and kids don't like anything that's bitter. So when we take the bitterness out, we are guaranteed that our kids will eat. Our goal is to make sure our family eats, so put a little bit of baking soda and a little bit of salt when you blanch your collard greens. Takes the bitterness out and gives it a nice bright green color, which is good for the eye. Remember, when you put your food on the plate, the eye sees it first, then the nose smells what the flavors are, and then you start salivating, and your brain says, oh yes, I want to eat this. So we need to make it right so we can enjoy the food. And make sure when you put water, put so much water so you don't do a puree. It's just going to do like a rough blend, like I showed you. So put water to the level of your greens to make sure you have your proper rough blend. And I just turned off the heat from the greens, so make sure that they all cook at the same time. Again, a rough blend. So add it to the pot with the salt and the baking soda. And so this is the blanching process. Some might say it's a lot of work, but guess what? You want to do a lot of work to make sure your family can eat very well. And remember, food is what the eye sees first. So make it look as pretty as possible. Take your time and make the food right. Now we're going to do the same with the kale. As with kale, the stems are very strong, so I usually take off part of the stem. They're not as soft as collard greens. They're strong. So you take the first part of the stem off before you chop them up. I turned off the stove from the collards because I don't want to forget and let them be overcooked. They cook in maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes. So I'll do the kale, then I go and turn on the stove and cook the collard greens. Now, kale cooks in a heartbeat. So, my collard greens are almost done. So, I'm going to add my kale. And mix them up. I let it cook for about 5 minutes and I sieve it out and get it ready for the pumpkin seed stew. Done with this blender. I can take it off. Now for the pumpkin seeds, you can buy them already ground from the African stores, or you can buy them whole. And if you do, then what I do is I actually soak them up overnight. I soak them up overnight, and the reason is they are dry, just like if you want to make your beans. If you want to cook your beans, you soak the beans overnight, and then the next day you cook them, and they cook faster. So same with the pumpkin seeds. I soak them overnight, but for this exercise, I just left them the way they are, so I can show you. I didn't soak them, but to get better results, if you're planning to make your pumpkin seed and you're using the unground pumpkin seeds, soak them overnight so when you grind them, they grind faster and also they cook faster. I'll blend them and we'll add it to our herbs that I've been cooking. So I'll now take the greens out of the hot water to stop the cooking process and put it in cold water while waiting to add it to my egusi at the end. And why do I do this step? I use salt and baking soda, and I don't want a lot of that in my egusi, so I do it on the side, blanch the greens on the side, then I drain them out of this stock that contains a lot of baking soda and salt. I put them in cold water to stop the cooking process. Trying to see how smooth the mixture is. It's not yet as smooth as I want. I'm going to grind a little bit more. Now our blend is very smooth, as you can see. So I'll now pour it inside our sauce that we made. I need my spatula to clean every drop of it and add it to the sauce. So egusi or pumpkin seed is basically a thickener, because you see the way as soon as you put it in the pot, it starts rising. It has a lot of fiber that we all need. So a little bit goes a long way. So many nutrients in pumpkin seed. It's going to splash, so I'm going to leave the heat very low because egusi is fond of splashing. I don't want it to burn, so I'll constantly be stirring to prevent it from burning. Because it's going to splash, I'm going to cover the pot and let it cook for another maybe 20-25 minutes. And egusi or pumpkin seed is something, or if it's not properly cooked, it gives you a runny stomach. So you want to make sure that your pumpkin seed is always properly cooked. Otherwise, it's not going to be very friendly with your gut. So always cook your pumpkin seed very well before you serve. I take my greens out of the water. You see them looking nice and green. Nice and green. Good for what the eye sees. And this is collards and kale, roughly ground, just so that it looks good in our stew. Because food is what the eye sees and what the nose smells. So I'll turn up the heat a little bit and stir. So I'm going to let it cook again for another 20 minutes. And then I'll come back and add our greens and mix them up, and we'll see how it looks. So let's wait 20 minutes and come back. Right now, let's finish the process of making our vegan pumpkin seed stew, which is our vegan egusi. You can see how thick it is. The water dried up. And what you don't need to remember is egusi would burn. No matter what you do, it's going to burn. So just be careful. The fact that it burned doesn't mean anything. Just keep going. Reduce the heat as much as you can. Cover the pot. Mix it constantly. So our egusi has been cooking for a while. Usually, if I had put a lot of oil while frying the egusi, you will see the oil settle at the top of the pot. But I didn't put that much oil because oil shouldn't be the thing about your stew. It should be the herbs and the egusi and everything else that comes with it. Now, our greens have been cooked, so we don't need to cook them anymore. So we'll just add them to our egusi. They smell fantastic. They smell so good. Now, if you want more greens in your egusi, feel free to add more greens, but I think these greens are just enough for you to enjoy the pumpkin seed. I turn on the heat and let it just simmer for like 2 minutes and I'm good to go because the greens were already cooked. So there's nothing to cook here. We just want them to mix up, balance up really good. And then we'll plate it and show you what you pair it with. This is a very, very healthy dish that we should all be eating at least once a week. At least once a week. Pumpkin seeds, so healthy and relatively cheap because I have this pot of pumpkin seed stew here. I could make it lighter if I want. I can leave it thicker if I want. It's all your choice. Just add water if you want to make it a little lighter. If you want to leave it thicker as it is, just leave it as I have it here. The flavor is so good. I'm sure the taste is also wonderful. So, our egusi soup is ready. So, in the egusi eating countries, typically Nigeria and Cameroon, will pair it with some form of fufu. And the most common fufu is gari because gari is relatively cheap. So every family can at least afford gari to eat with their egusi soup. Those who can afford yam will pair it with yam fufu. Some people pair it with plantain fufu. Some people just eat it with rice. It is also very good with steamed white rice. So here I'm going to show you I'm going to pair my egusi soup. And a little bit goes a long way, so don't put just too much. So this is our vegan egusi pumpkin seed stew paired with gari fufu. So as we move on, I'll also show you how to make the different types of fufu. Because at Motherland, we have about 7 different types of fufu. They all have different consistencies. So we'll look at the different measurements that gives you a serving of fufu. So this is gari, and I just paired it with our vegan pumpkin seed stew, which is vegan egusi. So no meat, no animal product, nothing but herbs. Food is about herbs. And those who want to put some meat and fish and crayfish in their egusi, that class will be coming up very soon. I'll show you how to pair those meats and make the same dish with meat. For now, this is our vegan pumpkin seed stew, vegan egusi, that I just paired with gari fufu because that is the most popular that is eaten in Nigeria and Cameroon, where egusi is eaten a lot. Enjoy it and see you the next time in the class. And when you cook it, tell us what you think, or if you did anything different, what you added, so other members of the community would be able to try your style or add whatever you added to give it more flavor, because food is about herbs and herbs give us flavor in our foods. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in.